and has a BS in psychology from Center College. She loves calling Knoxville home and is most proud of her family, her husband Michael, and 2 children, Leon and Nora. Megan?
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me. I'm always excited to come and talk about the work of Tennessee Achieves and especially highlight the success of our students that go through the program. We have a really close partnership and connection to Knoxville. We started in Knox County in 2008, actually working with our first class, with the class of 2009. We had 493 applicants that year. This was a workforce development initiative out of Knox County Mayor Ragsdale's office, with a lot of business leaders funding those last dollar scholarships at that time. Randy Boyd, Tim Williams, Rich Ray, Bill Haslam were all part of this initial effort. So a lot of great champions in our history. This past year, this current year, I should say, 2024, we have 66,000 applications for Tennessee Promise. It's really confusing sometimes to understand the difference. So once the state passed Tennessee Promise in 2015, that was the first class that was statewide, Tennessee Achieves handles all of the non-financial components of the scholarship. And we've also expanded a suite of programs to support students. So that way we don't just get the students there, we get them through to an actual quality credential or college degree. So just want to explain that up front because it is a common question that we get. So Tennessee Achieves was the model to what became Tennessee Promise. And when I say we had 66,000 student applications statewide, those applications were for the Tennessee Promise scholarship. The goal of Tennessee Achieves, it's simple. We really want to provide holistic student support. We want to meet students where they are at scale when you're working with numbers that big across the state. But we want to make sure our support is rooted in community. We have an office in Memphis, an office in Nashville, an office in Knoxville, working statewide. And each community has different needs. Each student in each of those communities have different needs. So we want to make sure we're rooted in community, and then also accountability. We measure everything. We're a very data-driven organization, and making sure that what we're doing is in fact moving the needle on retention and student success matters immensely to us. So it's easiest to understand our work in these 3 different buckets. The first we call complete, so students first always, that's one of our deeply held values. If it's not working for students, we don't want to be doing it. So we'll try anything once, but we'll scrap it if we don't think that is actually moving the needle. I'll explain some of these student support services here in just a bit, but we have coaching, we have grants that we're able to provide to students, that we follow the students through their eligibility to make sure they have the support that they need. Team Tennessee Achieves, this is that community support that I was talking about. I know I've talked to one mentor up here already. Show of hands, anybody in the crowd mentor with Tennessee Achieves? All right, I love it. So you're already familiar with this piece. We're always looking for new mentors. So it's closed for the class of 2024, but class of 2025, you can be a part of that push to get those students to college. We also develop advisory councils to make sure that we're meeting community needs in those areas where we serve, and then community service. Our students are giving back 8 hours of community service for every semester or trimester that they're enrolled in the scholarship. This July, we will hit over 5 million hours of community service hours submitted. So really proud of that number. And even though they're a little bit skeptical at first, 96% of the students we survey them after, they like it. They like going. They're a little intimidated, but it's good for them to plug into their communities. And then last but not least, accountability. We measure everything. We externally validate our numbers to make sure that what we're doing is making a difference with the dollars that we are given. Scope of work. So everywhere that's green, that's where we're serving as what's called a partnering organization with Tennessee Promise, and then also providing that suite of student services. The Ayers Foundation, our partner in this work, is serving the Gray counties. Our area represents 90% of Tennessee high school seniors. That's public, private, and homeschool students. We work with 93% of Tennessee Promise applicants, and 88% of Tennessee Community College graduates are Tennessee Achieves students. I love this slide. Big numbers. So this represents 16 years of work. As I mentioned, we existed before Tennessee Promise was passed. So we have served over 633,000 students. We have filed, with the help of a lot of school counselors and state partners, and mentors, might I add, over 515,000 FAFSAs. FAFSAs, that free application for federal student aid. You probably remember completing it or completing it with children or maybe people that you've mentored. It's complicated, so that's a huge accomplishment for our students. Over 300,000 students have enrolled in some sort of post-secondary institution. That's community college, that's a 4-year institution. That also includes our TCATs, the Tennessee Colleges of Applied Technology. We use a big tent to talk about college because all of those things are post-secondary. And then 149,000, a little over that, those students have enrolled with Tennessee Promise eligibility. So you can see here between 2014 and 2015, that huge jump, that represents when we were no longer fundraising for private dollars to support those students through scholarship. The state absorbed that. Governor Haslam's hallmark initiative of passing Tennessee Promise. We thought we were going to get about 30,000 students statewide, and we found out, ooh, the counselors are pushing all of these students to apply. So it was a fun year. We were doing that with 14 people on staff at that time. So you can see here, fast forward to 2024, this is our largest Promise class ever, close to 67,000 students. Just to give you a bit of perspective, we have about 70,000 high school seniors each year in the state of Tennessee. Of course, that's a give or take. That's public, private, and homeschool. So if this is not students' plan A, it's definitely in their back pocket as a plan B. But no matter where they're planning to go, if they're going to go with Tennessee Promise, and that's to a community college or a TCAT, with that last dollar scholarship to help support them, or if they're going to go out of state or to the University of Tennessee, they need to be doing the steps that we are outlining for them. They need to have that encouragement of the mentor. So we're pushing the students in the direction of post-secondary. If they go with Promise, that's great. If they go without Promise, that is fine too. Different fits for different students. Outcomes. Getting the students there, incredibly important. Keeping them there, even more important to us. Clearly both very important, but we want to make sure that we're investing in the students once they land at the post-secondary institution. So this compares a Tennessee Achieves student with a non-Tennessee Achieves student. Our students are 89% more likely to retain after their first year, and then they're 157% more likely to graduate. That's a 3-year grad rate. Than their non-Tennessee Achieves peers. So while we have room to grow here, we always want to be pushing that 3-year graduation rate. The students are definitely outpacing their peers. That's something we're really proud of. Something that keeps us up at night at Tennessee Achieves are our most vulnerable student populations. No matter how you slice the data, if a student is from an income-limited household, they are less likely to go to college or a post-secondary institution. And when they go, they're less likely to finish once they get there. So if you look at these numbers, this is looking at our data about certain groups. This economically disadvantaged group, they are 357% more likely to graduate if they go through the Tennessee Achieves program. And this is a lot of things built around the student. It's meetings at their high school. It's a community volunteer or mentor that's pouring into that student. It's a program that's sending them a lot of emails and text messages, because they really don't check their emails all that much. If you're a mentor, you know what I'm talking about. So this stuff matters. This is how we're closing equity gaps when we look at different student groups, which is something that we're always thinking about as well at Tennessee Achieves. We are thick in FAFSA filing season, so FAFSA, that free application for federal student aid, this is the gateway to federal aid like the Pell Grant, as well as some state scholarships. So you have to file FAFSA to get HOPE, which is a merit-based scholarship, and a need-based grant called TSAA. We finished with an 86% FAFSA filing rate. Last year, we're always trying to get as close to 90 or beyond that we can get to make sure that students have the proper steps checked off to get to college with that incredibly important financial support. There have been a lot of changes to the 24-25 FAFSA. So many data labs were normally able to send targeted communication to say, John, you have not filed your FAFSA yet. We're not able to do that at this point. So we are really rallying the troops with our post-secondary partners to make sure that we're getting into high schools. We're providing every opportunity for students to help complete this FAFSA filing process. If you know a high school senior or you know someone who knows a high school senior, tell them to make sure they file their 24-25 FAFSA by May 15th. Community service, already touched on this a bit. This is right now where we're sitting, this 4.7 million community service hours. Like I said, that will push over 5 million hours in July. So there's a July 1 community service deadline for students. Community service, something I like to highlight is this also includes job shadowing days for students. And when I'm standing in front of students at a meeting to tell them about their community service requirement, I say, go and shadow something you think you want to do, or talk to your mentor about what they do. Sometimes they don't know what's out there. They see teacher, they see doctor, they see nurse, the things that they're interacting with, the professions they're interacting with. But I say, you might want to be a kindergarten teacher now. After you spend 8 hours in a classroom with a bunch of 5- and 6-year-olds, you may change your mind. We also have some students who go and they do a job shadowing day in a medical profession, and they're like, I passed out on my first day. And we're like, okay, we need to shift what you're planning to study because that's not going to work out. So really helpful for students to know, this is really good for you to do to get to have an understanding of what you want to study before you major in something and spend all of that time and energy towards that particular profession. Summer programs. Like I said, we have a lot of support for students. These programs happen between the high school senior year and the first year of college for our students. They are free. We feed the students at these programs. The first is our Summer Bridge program. We don't explain it like this to the students, but these are 3-week academic boot camps to help the students start more academically prepared. So if they score below certain levels on their ACT, they can't start in college level coursework. So we bring them on a college campus in classrooms with college professors. We run these at all of the community colleges across the state. There are 13 in Tennessee. We have a Tennessee Achieves person there handling all the logistics and offering additional support to students. We don't teach the classes, but we make sure they have lunch. And you can see here that we have served close to 6,000 students while we've been doing this with an 87% success rate. Success means that they've either improved their test scores, we pre and post test them, or that they've tested out and no longer need that remediation once they start at the community college. Summer Institute, we host this at Southwest Tennessee Community College in Shelby County, so in West Tennessee. And this is an intensive 6-week credit-bearing class. We cohort the students, and when they finish this program, they actually start college ahead. They have 9 hours of college credit, and they have totally eliminated their need to require remediation once they start in school. So they're getting a jump start and have some momentum ahead of time. The hardest part about these programs is getting a 17 or 18-year-old to give up 3 weeks or 6 weeks of their summer, but it really does pay off, and we try to highlight free food, know your audience. So once the students go through the summer programs and they start college, they're more successful when they get there. 62% more likely to retain Remember, this is a student who was not academically prepared, according to the ACT for college. They're 62% more likely to retain and 83% more likely to graduate. The thing I love most about Bridge, and I've been on the campuses running these programs for some of the years in the early years, 98% of students who go through our summer programs, we survey them, say that they feel more prepared to go to college after this 3 or 6 week program. That is the difference maker. Because if they know their way around campus, if they know where to park, if they see a familiar face, sometimes they ask the professor teaching them, hey, can I get in your English 1010 class? Like, professors are very scary for some of our students, and so that familiarity, just to get their feet wet and feel more comfortable, is such a difference maker for our students. Complete. This is our high impact coaching model. We have 29 people on our team across the state that are working with our students once they land at the post-secondary institution. I like to explain it as case management for college students. They're proactively reaching out, they're texting, they're saying, hey, how's the semester going? How's the week going? If the student has said, I have a big math test coming up, we take note of that, our coaches take note of that, and they follow up. How's it going? They can connect them with resources in their community, they can connect them with tutoring services, counseling services, all those sorts of additional supports that are helpful for our students. We are coaching a Pell eligible student, so a student from a limited income background, because when you look at the data, those are the students we have the hardest time retaining and the students that have the hardest time completing, because they're having to drop out of school to get jobs to support their families. It is a small amount of money sometimes why students are having to drop out. So we're doing everything we can through coaching to help them find resources they need. They also have access to something called a complete grant. Complete grant in higher education is also known as emergency aid. We are giving out grocery cards, we're giving out gas cards, we're helping with rent assistance, we're able to help students purchase their books, we're able to buy the computers. Our students are trying to write college papers on their cell phones. They can't afford their books, and so they don't have the materials to be successful. We can't just get them there, we have to put a lot of support around them once they get there, especially the students who can't afford all of these additional things to be successful in college. It makes a huge difference. It's been fun. This is a program that I oversee, and so getting to build out a process where you're giving out $100 increments, but you're giving out $2 million in an academic year is a lot of fun and a lot of problem solving, but we have dispersed over 17,000 grants this academic year. That represents 3,200 students, and then you can see all time since we started this a few years back, dispersed over $4.6 million in these complete grants. This is in addition to this is not Promise. So this is not the Tennessee Promise Scholarship. These are those additional things that pop up for students once they start at their college journey. If there's a magic equation to help more students find success, it is this combination. You can't just throw money at something. You also have to have that critical support. That's why we have mentoring. That's why we have developed coaching. These are our students who are the least likely to retain, and the students who are coached and receiving a complete grant are 79% more likely to retain than their peers and 183% more likely to graduate. This matters. We have a 5-year pilot from the state for these complete grant dollars, and so we're actively talking to legislators and sharing these astounding results because we want to make sure this continues for a very long time for our students. As I mentioned, highlighting student stories is one of the favorite things that I get to do. It is unreal. I'm sure you all hear this, when you're awarding scholarships. Some of your students that you're awarding scholarships are probably our students too, right? We are all supporting a similar student. And so hearing how much this matters to them, our TCAT students, the Tennessee College of Applied Technology, the tools that they need to purchase for their programs are like $900, like over $1,000. Our students can get up to $1,000 in academic semester or term, so we're able to cover those types of expenses. But this matters. They can't go and do that TCAP program and be successful unless they can afford the tools, which we're able to help them. You can also see the student mentions, this is a student from West Tennessee going to TCAP Chattanooga. She also mentions her complete coach, Jessica. That's someone on our staff who's continually following up. They have to connect with their coach in order to get the dollars. They can't just have the dollars alone. We want to make sure that's a continued partnership. A few pilot programs, one that is based right here in Knox County. First, transfer pilot. We try a lot of things and keep what works. This is working. We've been doing this for about 3 years. About 65 to 70% of our students indicate that after Tennessee Promise, they want to transfer to a 4-year institution. So they're going to go their 2 years with Promise, maybe get an associate's degree or be on the transfer pathway. And then only about 24% of them actually do transfer because it is a complicated, tricky process. We have put 3 coaches across the state to help with this specific task. They have become experts in resources, experts in the 4-year institutions, and they're passing that knowledge on to their students, which has increased that transfer rate to 46%. So that is also working. We are looking for funding to continue that pilot to make it a permanent fixture at Tennessee Achieves. And then Knox Access. So Knox County, we have a college going rate goal to get to 70% by 2024. We have a lot of business and education behind that particular goal. You may be aware of that. We're sitting at like 64% right now. Like in most counties, the pandemic, we all took a hit. Their students just didn't know what to do, and higher education institutions were struggling to figure out how to best support students. And so we've got to right that ship, because if we don't have educated students, we don't have an educated workforce. So it takes all of us coming together to make sure that students do find themselves in post-secondary education. And the way we're playing a part at Tennessee Achieves is embedding and not what we call a Knox Access coach in each of the high schools. So this is on the front end. So this is before they get to college. They visit their high schools once a week, and they're helping with things like filing a FAFSA, like completing a college application, and getting them across the finish line of graduating high school. Clearly something they have to do before they can be ready for college in the fall. We're serving roughly 5,000 students. That's all of the Knox County seniors that are in public high school. Mentoring, this is the heart of our program. This is really the reason why we see so much impact and so much success. Because it's not just the money, it's not just the Tennessee Promise dollars or the complete grant dollars, it's the coaches, and it is the volunteers from each of our communities where we serve that really helps students. Students just need someone to say, keep going, you're doing a good job. We once had a mentor say, my student was about to drop out or not go because she couldn't figure out where to pay for her $10 parking pass at Rome State. $10 and not knowing where to take that $10 is changing students' life plans. So that is why the mentors are so incredibly important. If you mentor, or if you mentor in the future, you may not hear from your students, but I promise you they're hearing from you. They're getting that information. We are trying to teach them and train them to respond to the mentors, because that is a skill set they need to take out in the professional world as well. Check your email and respond to your email and your text messages. So we're trying to get them there. Some of them are better than others. These are some student stories. The 2 on the left, Tamari and Anika, are from Knoxville. And so we ask our students all the time, why you're going, why college has had an impact on you. And we find that students want to hear from other students. So these stories are actually in a student handbook that we create that every Tennessee Promise applicant from 2024 also has. And we highlight this. We're like, you might not know why you want to go, but read these student stories and see if something resonates. because they need to see somebody like them, right, that just graduated from high school, from their community, that is doing it, to know that they can actually do it too. So love student stories. It's so fun to hear from them and what they're accomplishing, breaking family cycles and pursuing their dream careers. This is not me, but this is our president and CEO, Chrissy D'Alejandro, who has been with the program since it was an idea on a whiteboard. She has been our executive director, our president and CEO from the very beginning. I do have cards with me. I'm also on the website. We're all on the website with our cell phone numbers. So if we can do anything to answer any questions, we're happy to do that. I'm also happy, I don't know how I'm doing on time. I know you all run a tight ship. Ooh, I'm still under time. So I'm happy to answer any questions if you have, and that was a lot of information in a very short amount of time. Yes?
I was with a high school counselor this morning and we were talking about the fiasco of FAFSA this year. And with these kids that are on the edge and stuff, how concerned are y'all about just the frustration on getting the FAFSA completed this year?
So the question is, the FAFSA is a fiasco. That's a great way to put it. So there's something called the FAFSA Simplification Act, which is actually not simplifying things all that much for us right now, because it is just causing a lot of technical errors and glitches. And so, and as I mentioned, we don't even have we're supposed to be getting it this week. We don't even have the information from the state to be able to see who's done it and who has not done it, which means the counselors can't either. And then, students are getting these wonky error messages. So we're concerned, but in true Tennessee Achieves fashion, we are doing what we can about it. So we're actually gonna send out communication this week to our college partners as well as our high school partners to say who can help and who needs help, and then matching those people together to go out and help host FAFSA events with our staff included. We're staff of 49, and so we can't be everywhere. We'll be anywhere that we can be, and definitely spread those resources, but we are concerned. It is so hard because the processing of FAFSA is very delayed too. So even when we get the data might be as of like 3/29/2024. Well, we lose a lot of students there. So even once we get the data, it's not always, in real time. In the past, it's been about a 2 or 3 day lag time, and now it's a couple of weeks. So everybody's doing the best they can and trying to be positive about it. That's what we're telling our coaches. Like, don't be all doom and gloom to the students, because they're gonna be like, well, shoot, if this person's like supposed to be in charge of this and they can't do it, then I'm gonna throw my hands up in the air. So we just continually follow up with students to say, how can we help? And give them instructions about what they should receive if they've successfully submitted the FAFSA. They will get a confirmation email. Yes?
Is the bridge program open to all of the students, or just the students not meeting those minimum requirements? Because the girls I'm working with, my understanding is they meet the requirements, but they're the first in their families to go to college, so they're super anxious. And I think it would be a great thing to steer them to.
Sure. So the question is, can students who technically score high enough on the ACT to take college level coursework, can they participate? Absolutely. So we do have a few students every year who are like, I don't really need to test out, but if students have like even a 22 or everybody can use a little additional preparation, right, to get ready for college level. High school and college, two very different things. So the experience is beneficial no matter what your ACT score. So definitely tell them, if you have students in your world that are interested in summer bridge programs or summer institutes in West Tennessee, just tell them to go to TnAchieves.org. That application is open now. Yes?
You mentioned this is a last dollar. Can you explain what that means?
Sure. So last dollar means that we're having students file that FAFSA by a deadline. They're going to get all of the state and federal aid that they can receive first. That is applied to tuition and mandatory fees. And then Promise is going to come in and pick up that remaining balance on a student account. So really the students with the most financial need are most likely going to be getting federal Pell funding. That's need-based aid, not a loan. They don't have to pay it back. We always are very clear with that to students. But Promise is probably going to be paying $0 for that particular student. But financial situations can change from year to year. So we always tell students, keep your eligibility, and we know the students, even if they're not getting promised dollars, those are the students that we're coaching. So we want to make sure that, we're able to support those students, absolutely.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Megan, and for time purposes, we're going to send out an email kind of telling what Main Street Committee is going to be doing with Tennessee